Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to the breakout section of the second MAP NextGen CEO Web Conference 2021. I am Dr. Karen REMO, the CEO and co-founder of New Perspective Media Group, and your moderator for this second session of track number 1, The Good Money. Please settle down comfortably because we will now begin our program. Some reminders before we proceed. As participants of this breakout, you are automatically muted and your camera and video will be switched off automatically. Audience in the Echo Hub platform will remain muted. However, you are encouraged to submit your questions through the chat box. Due to time limitations, you may not be able to have all your questions answered live. And lastly, for our audience, you will only be able to see the speaker and moderator and will not be able to view other participants. In line with the MAP policy, we will dispense the lengthy introduction of our speaker. Our speaker for the session will share his views on how the next-gen CEOs will be able to lead their businesses, to be able to be innovatively profitable, socially responsible, and environmentally respectful. I would like to remind our speaker that you are given 20 minutes for your presentation. May I now call on our speaker for this breakout session on the good money. Let us all welcome, my pleasure to introduce the co-founder and CEO of UnionDigital Bank, Mr. ARVIE De Vera.
Thank you to the Management Association of the Philippines for inviting me here to speak at this event. I am ARVIE De Vera, a proud union banker for 10 years and now co-founder and CEO of UnionDigital, the digital bank of Union Bank of the Philippines. As some of you may know, Union Bank has been at the forefront of innovation in financial services. This was a result of the transformation journey of the bank, which we began in 2014. I was part of this transformation and at the same time a product of it. I'm here today to share what I have learned about the key traits in becoming a next-gen CEO. Many of these I have picked up from my mentors shown on this slide. Tito Ortiz, former chairman and CEO of Union Bank, current President and CEO Edwin Bautista, both of whom were the visionaries who led Union Bank's transformation, of which I was happy to be an integral part of. These are the 6 key traits for the next-gen CEO. First, anchoring on a higher purpose. Second, having a vision you are steering the ship towards. Third, pursuing a collaborative approach. Fourth, being open. Fifth, embracing disruption. And finally, sixth, upholding good governance. First is anchoring or rallying behind a higher purpose. For us, this is Tech Up Pilipinas. Our purpose is to enable corporates, institutions, SMEs, communities, and individuals, whether through blockchain technology, such as our rural bank network, I2I, open APIs, or other means that engage connectivity. We want to digitize and tech up these customers and partners within the ecosystems we serve so that we can have a more financially inclusive Philippines. We live and breathe tech up. In fact, at the 2018 Singapore FinTech Festival, we decided to organize our participation under Tech Up Pilipinas, powered by Union Bank. In 2019, we took this further and brought leading fintechs to the global stage at the Singapore FinTech Festival, as we wanted to showcase what we could do as a country, not just Union Bank alone. Second, it takes a visionary to navigate a ship. One quote that always comes to mind is that of Tito Ortiz. The future does not come from the present. Rather, the present comes from the future. As a guide, you need to have a map of where you are going, what the future will be, and work backwards to determine what to do now in order to get there. Your map may not be completely 100% accurate, but it somehow gives you the vicinity and guidance to navigate. For Union Bank, we knew that blockchain technology would be a game changer. So we started to reimagine the future in the context of decentralized apps and platforms. We also knew our role would be as the trusted curator of our customers' money and our customers' identity, that central governance and trust, the duty of a bank. So we started mapping out what we need and building the key future infrastructure for that. We launched our own stablecoin PHX, which is used in our blockchain based rural bank network I2I. We created platforms for our retail and corporate customers to interface with us. We invested in digital asset exchanges and built self sovereign ID platforms, among other things. Having a vision for the future also requires the CEO to recognize that the future is a moving target. As JP Morgan said, go as far as you can see, and then when you get there, you'll be able to see farther. Third trait is pursuing collaboration. When we embarked on our transformation journey, we knew that we could not do it alone. At that time, the conversation then was pitting banks against fintechs, fintechs against banks. And collaboration between the two was uncommon as banks were fearful of losing market share to fintechs. At Union Bank, we took a different approach. We openly collaborated with fintechs, enabled them, co created with them. To do this, we took an open API approach and exposed our banking APIs on a Union Bank marketplace called the Developer Portal. To collaborate with fintechs regionally, we joined the API Exchange or APIX, a platform backed by the World Bank and Monetary Authority of Singapore, ASEAN Financial Innovation Network or AFIN. This was launched as a pilot open cross-border API at the Singapore FinTech Festival in 2019 by India's Prime Minister Modi. Fourth, a next-gen CEO must be open. An openness to learning new things, unlearning and learning anew is key in today's world. After 2 weeks, we only retain 10% of what we read compared to 90% retention of what we say and do. This openness to learning starts at the very top. On this slide, you see Tito Ortiz learning how to program a robot. We all worked at this hard all day, but he, probably the hardest, he set the example that we must all constantly learn if we are to lead the way into the future and not just rest on our laurels. You see also the photos of our own institutes for blockchain and data science, which upskills talent through practical modules. This is also why Union Bank is willing to carry out experiments and proof of concepts in blockchain and other emerging technologies. This is so that we are able to learn more as we want to do more. The fifth trait is to be disruptive. Leaders must be disruptors, even in our own organization when needed. This was clear to us when we were told by one of the top global consulting firms we had hired that we needed to digitize or die. We also knew that blockchain was gaining traction and that it would be a disruptive technology for financial services. Lest we be left behind, we decided to experiment, roll up our sleeves, and build on top of the technology ourselves. We were able to be relevant, to compete and succeed because we disrupted our own industry and our own internal processes and ultimately ourselves. This led to many industry firsts you see on the screen, such as the Bitcoin ATM, a rural bank network on blockchain called I2I, a stablecoin, commercial bank-backed digital currency approved by the central bank called PHX, a blockchain identity management platform called Akin, blockchain record keeping for bonds, and the first successful bank to ever pilot cross-border remittances via central bank, commercial bank-backed digital currency or CBDC from Singapore to a rural bank in the Philippines using blockchain. Last but certainly not the least is upholding good governance. We've always believed that we have been able to push the bounds of innovation precisely because of good governance, not in spite of it. Being a bank, we are a highly regulated institution and need to ensure the appropriate governance and risk measures are in place. This means that our governance, risk, and compliance teams also had to learn to appropriately deal with cryptocurrency, blockchain, and new ways of eKYC and open finance. Some of these even turning out to be more secure, traceable, and reliable than existing technologies or processes. As such, all our innovations, experimentation, and launches in blockchain, fintech, open finance, and more are done with close collaboration, supervision, and final approval of our regulators, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The trust is established through the collaboration, and because we take governance seriously, we always discuss and work with the regulators, aligned with their digital transformation objectives and roadmap. Governance and RegTech are actually enablers in our innovations, and they will continue to be key for Union Digital and Union Bank as we take transformation to an exponential level. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Arvi, for that very insightful presentation. And thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Dr. Karen. Thank you. Happy
Hello,
to be here.
hello. Great. Arvi, congratulations to for being one of the few pioneers, because it's a very, very nascent industry. So you've been one of the pioneers, not only in the Philippines, but also in the region, as far as fintech is concerned. I also very much like the quote that was from your mentors, which is like, the present, the future does not come from the present, but the present actually comes from the future. Tell us a little bit about your present first. Are you a fully owned subsidiary now? Do you have your own P&L? How does it work between Union Digital Bank and Union Bank?
Okay, Karen, thanks for that. So, to clarify, the central bank issued 6 digital bank licenses. So, the digital bank license is a separate classification and license for banking. Union Bank is a universal bank, and that is a universal banking license. So, this will be a separate entity with a separate license. And the digital banks are required to have only one head office as a branch and no other branches. So it's really about creating a more digital end-to-end process and experience compared to the universal banks, which have branches and therefore are required to manage the paper and all the branch requirements there. So it's a totally different license, and with it comes,
Mm,
well, a very exciting future.
okay. So when did you get the license?
We got awarded the license in July
This
this
year?
year. Yes. And so we will
Oh,
be open in the target is to open in July, same time next year.
okay. It's, July 2021. And by open, you mean like a brick and mortar physical branch?
It's a digital bank, so it's digitally open. Yes.
Okay, so there will be no representation of an actual bank for
There's only
this.
one branch allowed in the regulation, which is the head office. And then the rest of the execution is purely digital.
Okay, okay, got it. So in terms of the business, could you tell us like how big the business is now, the portfolio that you have? And in terms
The
of the revenue streams, yeah, how does it work?
Well, the bank's not open yet, so there's the digital bank is yet to open. So we're just setting up the bank at the moment, Dr. Karen.
Okay, all right. So can you walk us through about the process of opening this? There's only six of you. When did the idea, when was the idea conceptualized? And take us through the process till it became
Sure.
reality months
Sure.
ago.
The process is actually well embedded in the entire transformation journey of Union Bank. We started this transformation journey about 10 years ago. We were always the most, I guess, digitally acute bank when we were working with customers, and as we got more and more digitally transformed, we realized that no matter how great you transform, your cost to income ratio as a bank
will really be at best around 20 to 40%, because you really have to carry the cost of the branches, the cost of cash, the cost of paper, and that really weighs a lot. So in our future, we thought, okay, we have to digitize as much as we can. And so once you've digitized as much as you can, what are the portions you cannot digitize? Which are the branches, the physical paper, and all that. No? And so that led us to realize that, okay, we need to transform as developed as we can. But now that the digital bank license was issued, this also gives us an opportunity to reimagine from scratch what we could do with banking. So it's a totally separate license, totally clean slate, totally new technology, first principles design. What are the things you can do with this? We're not saddled by the legacy branch processes, legacy branch systems. So the thinking there is we get to restart or start anew with the digital bank, taking from all the learnings we've had and really leveraging that. So that's the thinking of why we're doing this, and at the same time it aligns really perfectly with our purpose of teching up the Philippines. We see the digital bank platform as a way to really help the unbanked and the underbanked to reach more people digitally. You know, sometimes they think that that means that if you go to the unbanked or underbanked, you're going to be less quality. That's not true. In fact, the challenges are hurdled by digital. It allows you to democratize very good technology, cheaper, more accessible for more people. And that's really going to be a platform that will help more Filipinos get banked or get services that are banking in nature, which is what we really need. I mean, when we have 70% of the country still not formally banked or underbanked, then there's so much opportunity there that's lacking. They can't Majority can't even borrow money. At the end of the day, it's about accessing credit, right? These people need to borrow money for their small business, for their housing loan, for their motorcycle loan. Credit really needs to drive economic development, right? And one of the things we've learned in Union Bank, for example, was if you have platforms that enable payments, interactions, we have a loans engine platform, we have a loans marketplace, we have a rural bank platform, a marketplace platform. All these platforms we've created in Union Bank that allow, SMEs to interact with sellers, to interact with suppliers and make payments. All of these, when it happens in a digital platform, really gives the opportunity now for the customer to say, hey, look, here's my digital information. Can I borrow against this? Since you know who I'm paying, how much I'm paying, who my suppliers are, can I now use this as a way of accessing credit? Can you give me supplier financing? And since that information is digital, you're able to service this customer at a more cost-effective manner. So these are the
Definitely, yeah.
that went through our mind, and a lot of it you'll see in Union Bank, but we carry on as well. But yeah, this is the thinking we have about connecting people through platforms.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, the heart of fintech is to serve the underserved or the unbanked, for that matter. As definitely you know this, that Google will now allow its users to book fixed deposits at any bank without having any bank account or savings account. Facebook is also launching SME loans through partnerships. Definitely going directly to the underserved market. To understand how Union Digital Bank works, what's the business model? I mean, I know that you'll be starting in July 2022, but what's the business model and how would you get the revenue from this?
I can't tell you that now, Karen. That's We're still
Okay.
putting that together, so I can't tell you that now. But let me tell you this.
Okay.
I think you'll see it in Union Bank. We've always thought about uh, the customers we serve, right? And the ecosystems we're in and the platforms we've been operating. And it's all about enabling these payments. It's all about processing these payments and then lending to these payments and these communities. So a lot of what we will do in Union Digital is really leveraging on the learnings and the technology advances we've had in Union Bank. The fintechs have been fantastic partners. They will continue to be fantastic partners. I think more than just serving the unbanked or underbanked, the fintechs have really served an unmet need whether it be for the underserved or the other markets. No, there's a spot that the fintechs have helped us in the Philippines grow. I mean, the adoption, the digitalization we're enjoying now is because we've had fintechs here for the past, well, 5 or 6 years. When we first started working with fintechs in Union Bank, I was heading the fintech business group. In 2017, we set that up to welcome fintechs into the Philippines, into Union Bank, because we wanted to work with them. And our openness, we bridged that gap through open APIs. We collaborated a lot with the fintechs. A lot of the fintechs really helped us, our customers, and we in turn helped them drive a lot of our digital transformation and our digital transactions as well here. So it's that openness to fintechs that was really a huge catalyst, that allows these fintechs to really operate now. And then that's good for the consumer. I think the consumer, the customer eventually wins when there's more choice.
Okay. Questions from the audience. Is Union Digital PDIC insured like a commercial or universal bank?
Yes, ma'am. Will be all.
Okay. Next question. Will Union Digital hold digital assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum as deposits?
There's no regulation on that yet, so I can't speak about that. But we are, Union Bank has always been at the forefront of blockchain. So these are things that we're definitely looking at as well, especially for the digital bank. But as a whole, the group has been very open towards blockchain. We did the first cryptocurrency ATM in the Philippines. We did the first blockchain platform. We have our own stable coin. So this is a space we're not just very familiar with, we're actually experts in. We've been doing this for a long time, since 2017. We've actually built on blockchain. So this expertise is at the heart of what Union Bank and Union Digital are.
Okay. You mentioned about the blockchain-based remittance. You're the first one to do the cross-border in the Philippines. I'm currently based in Dubai, and as far as overseas Filipinos are concerned, we're like 10 million, more than 10 million outside the Philippines. When are we likely to see this happening, with Union Digital Bank doing cross-border remittance, like really, from catering to the overseas Filipinos?
Yes, cross-border use case of blockchain in the terms of tokens have been explored for quite some time. The pilot I'm talking about, we did with Singapore in 2018 with OCBC Bank, where an OCBC account holder basically sent money which was received in a rural bank account in Cantilan, Surigao, real time. From Singapore to Cantilan, real time. And the way we did that in the middle was through blockchain technology. So we did a successful pilot in 2018, which we announced, I'm sorry, in the Singapore FinTech Festival in 2018. So that was the first use case, and that's where the world is headed now. You're hearing a lot of talk about digital currency, the use of blockchain for cross-border. I think that's a fantastic use case because you're talking about the central bank backing or a commercial bank backing that digital currency together with another commercial bank. So that makes the technology very powerful, but also the partners, right? And the key stakeholders very powerful on both ends. So I think, Karen, you're going to see that soon also in Dubai. I think that's, Dubai has been very progressive when it comes to digital currency. A lot of the many founders actually operate and live in Dubai.
Okay, so the pilot was in 2015, you mentioned. So the commercial
2018.
rollout, 2018. Okay, so the commercial rollout could be slated when?
I can't tell you that as well, Karen. Sorry.
Okay. Next question from the audience. Will consumers be able to deposit and withdraw digital assets like how consumers withdraw and deposit fiat or pesos?
We keep going back to digital assets. I mean, we're deposit taking is a function of the bank, so I don't wanna cover deposit taking in this conversation because there's no regulation on that. But there is regulation on is cryptocurrency and handling virtual assets. And right now, Union Bank does that, so that's a capability we do at the bank today, and definitely we will do in the digital bank. We are digital bank, so it makes sense to handle digital assets according and appropriately to the regulations available today.
Okay, next question. What was a catalyst for Union Bank to aggressively undergo transformation? UB did way before the pandemic, while other banks were forced to transform during the pandemic or due to the pandemic.
Sorry, I didn't get the last part, Karen.
So UB did way before the pandemic, while other banks they were forced to transform, due to the pandemic. So you were way ahead. So what's the catalyst for that transformation?
We were fortunate to be more digital during the pandemic. It was actually the catalyst was not the pandemic, but to be more digital as a baseline. In 2015, when we were speaking to a global consultancy firm that helped guide our transformation in the beginning, they had a very clear call to us, digitize or die. And we saw a future where banks don't exist. Banking, yes, but banks, no. So we saw a future
Mm.
where banking will be more invisible, more embedded. And so that was a future that scared us. And so we decided that we had to move fast towards digitizing our processes, digitizing our customers, digitizing the way we interact with each other, even the way we work, right? When the pandemic hit, we happened to be ready. We were preparing for a digital future, and the pandemic requires a digital future. So that really accelerated adoption. Uh, Maybe the most challenging part of that journey, Karen, was the stakeholders. You can't be digital alone. I guess that's what I'm also saying. If you're digital alone, who will you connect to, right? You can only connect to other digital counterparts as well. So we had to also help customers tech up. We also had to help other stakeholders tech up. The government started to tech up as well. So that's exactly how the tide just lifts all boats already.
Yeah, definitely. In psychology, they say that the fear of losing has more weight than the incentive of gaining. So losing a bank, or losing on that part is really, really big motivation or catalysts. Another question from the audience. Very, very good, very good participant here because this person is really listening. Arvi, as you mentioned that your mentors were Edwin, the president, and Tito, the chairman. As a next gen CEO, we are sure that they learn from you as well. What is it that older CEOs are learning from younger CEOs?
Well, I think for one, our love for blockchain and digital assets, and my experimentation there and my work there is maybe that's also what they learned from me. My I talked about being a risk taker, being a learner, and I learn by doing. So I do a lot of these things to learn, right? And that's what they learned from me. And one of the stories I'd like to share about learning is the Axie Infinity play to earn phenomenon that's been happening now. So to learn it, I got into it. I actually I have Axie teams as well. I'm an investor. I have managers, and I did it to learn. And interestingly enough, my CEO Edwin wanted to learn as well, so he became my scholar. So for 3 weeks, he and his son would play the game, and they would earn, and he was my scholar. And for me, that was amazing. I mean, I played the game, I learned, but he actually got a device. He got it. He went through it. He's quite competitive himself, and he learned it. And for a month, he was playing it on and off. So when you hear him speak about it, it's because he knows it. So I think that's something that they got from me, that doing part.
Learning from doing and while playing too, especially when there's fun and engagement. Another question from the audience. What would you have done differently considering you've accomplished so much for Union Bank?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't think I would have done things differently. I mean, maybe I would have done things maybe with a little more, you know, deliberateness or delicacy here or there. But I think the path, like I said, the map was clear. So I don't think I would have done things too differently. I've always been open and collaborative. Maybe I would have, if ever done differently, maybe I would have been explaining more. Then again, I think about it. We went on a lot of conference then, and a lot of conferences, and we were explaining things. But it's hard for people to believe in a digital future until you're pushed into it, right? So no, I wouldn't do anything differently. Really, things have been going much faster now. So happy to have been part of this journey.
Okay, so to answer your question, Jer, so no change. Next question from Anthony Christian Sabino. Do you believe that central banks and cryptocurrency can coexist in the future?
They can coexist today, and they coexist today. They coexist here in the Philippines and in other places in the world. Now, there's going to be, cryptocurrency or digital currencies are going to be. I see a future where definitely you're going to have central bank backed digital currencies. And that's not too far of a future because you already have commercial bank backed digital currencies now, and the emergence of a Chinese digital yen, there's a US dollar, but eventually there will be CBDCs as well. So I think the central banks will be more attuned to this, working more with them. Our own central bank has been quite progressive in this space. And yeah, I definitely see a future where we have a BSP issue digital peso.
Is it happening already in other parts of the world, like a CB backed VC?
There's many executions that are ongoing. It's more about the use cases, Karen. It's until, like, for me, for here, and if we have a digital peso, until you get to benefit from it in Dubai as a remittance rail, it's not real. You know what I mean? So that's where we have to get it into an adoption level. The technology part is easy. It's the governance, the risks, and then the actual use case and adoption.
Okay. Okay. Question now from Jose Francisco. What new fintech opportunities is UB most enthusiastic about?
Oh, okay. Fintech is such a broad space, no. But what's very exciting is what's emerging, obviously, in the metaverse and with AI. Artificial intelligence, virtual worlds. Those are, that's the future. That's not so far in the future, but it's happening now underneath us. So, artificial intelligence, for example, is exciting because I think, just think about the possibilities. If a normal IQ, Dr. Karen, is 100, right? And then genius is 200. Imagine AI with 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 IQ. Imagine the possibilities there. No? So that excites me because when you think about applying that to financial services, I think about waking up and saying, hey, RV. And my avatar will answer, yes, RV, what do you want? How much am I worth today? Do I have money to buy coffee? What can I spend today? And it's just like that, right? Oh no, RV, you're about to hit your negative balance. That kind of financial awareness will just change your behavior. So that stuff excites me. The AI possibilities. I mean, I could go on, but I'll stop there first. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Yuval Noah Harari, the author of *Sapiens*, for example, mentioned that I mean, you don't know yourself really now. I mean, even your spouse, your closest friend, the one who really knows you is the AI. Because even if you say, for example, even gender, for example, people who are on the LGBTQ community, before they even know it, AI has known it because of the behavior analytics that's happening when they're using their smartphones. So yeah, AI definitely is something to really get excited about.
Imagine,
One
Karen, sorry,
question, yeah.
just to add to that, now you have AI on one side. Imagine combining that with the other side, that's virtual reality. So you have virtual reality and you have AI, and you put it together. You have, I mean, you have the matrix, right? You could be plugged into a world, and your brain, triggered by electronic synapses, and the AI is triggering you to experience that tender, juicy steak, that wind in your face. I mean, so AI is fantastic. Imagine that with virtual reality. Bam. I mean, that excites me.
Yeah, definitely. Limitless possibilities. Yeah. Question here from the audience again. What was the reaction of the board when you proposed about the digitalization of Union Bank? And how did you overcome the hurdles of pushing forward with your plan?
We're great. We're so fortunate to have a very open and forward thinking board. And a lot of it was through the process of what we called thought leadership, strategic thinking. We would invite thought leaders as early as 2010. We were inviting thought leaders to our board to speak about disruption, innovation, new trends. eBay, Facebook, they spoke to our board early on. So that when we had presented our plan, it wasn't foreign anymore. We had shared with them the process of our thinking, framing the world that we saw was coming, painted by leaders from Silicon Valley, from Europe, from New York. They would speak as experts in their respective field and tell the board, look, this is the world that's coming. Um, these are the possibilities. This is the future. And we were not thinking what kind of product should we sell. We were thinking, okay, if that kind of future is coming, what kind of capabilities do we need as an institution? What kind of muscle do we need, right? Not necessarily what kind of product or what kind of feature, what kind of muscle. So that's really how we did it. We did it through a process of engaging our stakeholders, but always again learning and learning from experts other than us to help drive the thinking and discussion.
Okay. And this is a very nice question. Based on your answer earlier, was it Tito or Edwin who was actually your scholar? They were asking what game is that they want to learn to.
Okay, so that's a phenomena that's really sweeping well, the cryptoverse. It's called Axie Infinity, which is
Okay,
a
the one you
play to
mentioned, yeah.
yes, which is a play to earn game. Now, what's surprising about Axie Infinity is for 40% of players are Filipinos. And this game allows you to play a game and earn cryptocurrency in exchange for playing the game, right? And that's the game that Edwin was playing. So Edwin was my scholar. Um, but unfortunately, I had to fire him because
Why?
well, I didn't want him to quit his day job. He wasn't playing too well. You have to play a certain amount of intensity and hours. So unfortunately, I had to fire him.
We will have to talk to him on a separate session then. So, next
I'll tell
question
you lots
from
of stories about that. Yeah.
yes. So for those who want to play it, Axie Infinity. Question from JJ Moreno. Great insights,
Hey,
RV. How has your digitization effort impacted your profitability?
wow, nice. Hi, JJ. Long time. So, you know, it's it's been fantastic because let me just summarize it this way. We increased our transaction volume, our customer base exponentially during the pandemic while still lowering our cost base. So the profitability was tremendous. Now it's not immediate, and that's the part that's tricky because a lot of these investments we are reaping the benefits for today, but we made these investments in 2015, 16, 17. So that's the part that's challenging, but definitely it's jaws of the tiger. The revenues have been going up because of the exponential returns, because of the exponential gains. Okay, but the cost has been going down.
That's fantastic. Low cost and higher a number of acquisition of new customers. Um, Next question. Have the investments made in this space paid off already? Or you're still in the investment phase?
And yes, they have and they continue to pay off, but the investment is continuous. I think transformation is not a destination. It's a continuous journey. Especially the investments you have to make now that you're digital. You have to make significant investments in structures, in people, in resources, because you're now digital. You have new functions that didn't exist before, Dr. Karen. You didn't have you didn't have data scientists,
Mm.
you didn't have cybersecurity experts, right? You didn't have hackers testing your system to see if these are different investments you need to make as an organization, because the more digital you get, the more security, governance risks you also have to work with. So it's a continuous investment journey, but definitely it definitely is paying off.
Okay, that's great to know. What was the inspiration why you chose to create an API model for the bank rather than simply digitizing the banking operations? Question from Jer.
Well, APIs allow you to scale, really, and APIs allow you to securely interact between systems. So the way to digitize, I would say, is through APIs, really. I mean, that's one portion, right? Of course, you have robotics, process automation, you have digitization, but at the end of the day, when you have all of that information in one system, you need to share it, you need to work with it, you need to transact with it. All of these things happen through APIs, the connectivity, the application program interface between programs. So those are bridges. So you need to build those electronic bridges more and more, so that instead of giving you a file via Excel, right, we can automatically talk the way your phone automatically talks with other programs. And that's why I really believe that an API strategy, and more an open API strategy, and it's not just to banks, it's actually to corporations, companies, even SMEs, even a single even a even a single online shopper, or seller, right? If he has a website, he'd like the ability to connect to other partners, and those are all facilitated via API. So I think the value becomes more predominant and more and better when you can share it, this information, these transactions. And when you open your business with APIs, you allow yourself to, yeah, digitize, be more efficient. You can now receive cross-border payments. The more API enabled you are, the more opportunities you have, I think.
Great, great. So having said that, of course, the infrastructure globally and in the Philippines is definitely progressive. Currently, there are 6 digital banks authorized by the BSP. Do you foresee that all banks will have the digital banks in the near future?
No, I think all banks have, well, so the classification of digital bank, that one is, well, to be licensed by the BSP, no. But can all the banks be more digital? I think yes. So not all banks can be digital banks, because that's a separate classification. But I think all banks need to be more digital if they are going to survive in the next world, no. I guess the question is, how much time do they have, and how far do we have, right? But definitely banks have to be more digital, because the economy, the customers, the partners, everyone else is being more digital. So the reverse of being digital alone is being the only one not digital. And that's obviously a disadvantage. So I think you'll see more banks find a hybrid approach, where they will have a lot of digital capabilities, and that will vary bank to bank according to their strategies.
Okay, a little bit about the economy then. So the question is somehow related to that. You can have your economist hat here. Considering the Philippines posted roughly 7.1% of GDP growth, how much of that can you attribute to the transactions made digitally? And what impact do you think your efforts created? What impact do you think your efforts created during the pandemic?
Okay, well, let's zoom out a little bit more, Karen. I think if you look at the digital payments roadmap of the BSP, and they're tracking the digital transactions, no, we were at 1% in
Okay.
2013. In 2021, in 2020 we were at 20%. I believe in 2021 we'll probably end closer to 25%. So obviously the growth has been much more in the last 3 years, no. But that already shows you that, I mean, 25% of our payments are now digital, and most of that coming in the last 3 to 4 years. we've seen a huge impact on that. We've been a key enabler in that because we've been driving a lot of the corporate digital payments. Retail as well. We started doing that more recently, but we've been known as the leader in corporate banking, digital payments, transaction banking, and we've been driving a lot of the payments. We've also been helping digitize a lot of the ecosystems our corporate customers work in, live in, breathe in. So by digitizing those platforms, therefore all the transactions there are digital, right? We're driving the overall growth. And I think that's been very successful for Union Bank. We've you know our customers also appreciated it, and in during the pandemic we saw both our corporate customers and our retail customers really ramp up and increase their digital usage. What's interesting is a lot of the corporate customers, many were convinced before the pandemic, but during the pandemic the others had no choice. So that really changed things, and those who were hesitant about going digital with their business processes, with their even with their banking, right? They were semi manual, semi check based. We started seeing a lot of checks move to electronic payments during the pandemic, and that was fantastic. So I think when you have the platforms ready, we had a check mobile deposit platform ready, we had the portal ready to do all of these via API, and then the customer is ready to adopt, you're able to adjust and handle the scale. So I think that was very helpful because our usage and our customer counts went up exponentially, and we were able to handle the load. It's been challenging, but we were able to handle that growth because the platforms were ready for that.
Great. We have time for one last question, and here it is from Philip Sullivan. Do digital banks face additional cyber threats beyond those faced by traditional banks? If so, what are these additional threats?
I think the cyber threats apply equally to all of us, all banks, and even non-banks, and that's a concern for all of us as an institution to handle. What and I think we need to think about cyber threats beyond just what happens digitally, because there's a lot that happens in terms of social engineering to the customer, who gives up his one-time pin, and the phishing incidents. So there's a lot that has to happen also in terms of education. But that responsibility applies to all of us, and I think we have to work together, digital bank or not digital bank. We have to raise the walls, the standards as an industry, because these cyber threats, I will just really call out, are just beginning. The more digital we get, right? The more we raise the bar for digital, the more the cyber threats will come and challenge. So it's an ongoing raising of the wall, if you will, Karen.
Great. Keep on raising the bar, RV. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us today. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe and healthy. After this session, we will have the president and CEO of True Life UK, Eng Teng Wong, but there are also other sessions that you might want to check out. So please log in for now for the next session, and I will still be the moderator for this track. Again, thank you so much, RV. Wonderful time with you, and thank you so much to our wonderful audience. This breakout session is now adjourned.